I didn't get grounded after my sweet 16. I got imprisoned during it. For most girls, turning 16 is magical. That awkward stage between childhood and adulthood where, just for a moment, you feel seen, celebrated, and chosen. For me, it was the day I realized I didn't matter. For weeks, I had planned every detail of my sweet 16. Not a fancy ballroom or some TikTok-worthy spectacle, just a cozy backyard party with string lights, chocolate cake, and laughter. A small group of people who actually cared. Zoe helped me write the invitations by hand. She even made a scrapbook of our friendship as her gift. It was supposed to be simple, beautiful, mine, but nothing in that house ever stayed mine. Veronica, my stepmother of 2 years, was like sugar-laced poison. On the surface, she was polished and kind. She volunteered. She baked. She smiled too. Much. But underneath? There was control. Cold, subtle control. 3 days before my birthday, she walked into the kitchen wearing one of her silk robes like she was the queen of the house and said, "We're changing your plans. We've decided. A family dinner is more appropriate." We? I looked at my dad, desperate for backup. He just nodded. "Veronica knows what's best. And you've been spending too much time with Zoe, anyway." Zoe. My best friend since 3rd grade. The only person who still saw me. Veronica hated her. Said her family wasn't our kind of people, which, in her language, meant they didn't drive Range Rovers or vacation in the Hamptons. I begged. I cried. I even offered to combine both, do the party after the family dinner, but it was already decided. My birthday had been hijacked. Still, I held on to hope. Maybe she'd change her mind. Maybe my dad would remember he used to care, but the morning of my birthday erased all hope. I woke up groggy and confused. My phone wasn't on the nightstand. My alarm hadn't gone off, and then I tried to open my door. It was locked. From the outside at first, I thought maybe it was stuck. But then I saw the keyhole and the shadow of someone walking past the hallway. I banged on the door. "Dad? Veronica?" Silence, then, her voice. Calm. "Clinical, you're staying in there until you can be respectful. Actions have consequences." Dyla. My crime? Letting Zoe come over the night before to give me my gift. That entire day, I sat on my bed in disbelief while downstairs, the sounds of clinking glasses and polite laughter drifted up through the vents. Veronica had her book club over. On my birthday, I wasn't grounded, I wasn't in trouble, I was being erased. Every laugh downstairs stabbed. Every mention of my name followed by fake sympathy. "Oh, Dyla's not feeling well." They were pretending I didn't exist, and part of me started believing it, but I heard everything. Every judgmental whisper. Every smug chuckle, and when I peeked out the window and saw Zoe standing at the front door, holding a carefully wrapped gift, only to have it snatched and tossed straight into the outdoor trash bin by Veronica. That's when something inside me snapped. They say actions speak louder than words. Watching Veronica drop my best friend's gift in the trash was the loudest scream I'd ever heard. I watched from my bedroom window, paralyzed, as Zoe stood on the front steps, confused, clutching the photo album she'd poured her heart into. She smiled nervously when the door opened. But that smile died instantly. Veronica didn't even bother to pretend. She snatched the gift from Zoe's hands like it was a bag of garbage. I couldn't hear her exact words, but I didn't need to. Her expression said everything. "You're not welcome here." Seconds later, she turned and tossed the gift into the trash bin by the curb, like it was nothing, and then she dusted off her hands. She literally dusted off her hands. Zoe stood frozen for a moment, then turned and walked away, shoulders hunched like she was the one who had done something wrong. I wanted to scream her name. Break the window. Throw something. Anything, but I didn't, because at that moment, I realized something brutal. This wasn't a one-time punishment. It was a pattern. A quiet erasure. And it was working. Veronica didn't just hate Zoe. She hated me, not openly. That would have made it too obvious. She chipped away at me, one friend at a time, one locked door at a time, one stolen birthday at a time, until even I started to forget who I was, and my dad, completely blind that he came home that evening with balloons and a small gift bag from the mall. Veronica kissed his cheek and handed him a glass of wine. They laughed as they walked to my room together, unlocking the door like I was a misbehaving toddler. "There's the birthday girl," Dad smiled. "Ready for dinner?" I looked at him like he was a stranger. "You locked me in here." Veronica cut in before he could respond. Only because she was acting out. She needs to understand boundaries. Right, Dyla? She placed a hand on my shoulder. It felt like ice. I said nothing. Just followed them to the dining room like a puppet. The table was set beautifully. Her book club ladies were still there, smiling politely like they didn't just hear me banging on my door for hours. "There's the birthday girl." One of them chirped. 16. How exciting. They talked about college. Boys. Proper manners. One woman leaned in and told me, "You'll thank Veronica someday. She's raising you into such a fine young lady." I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry, but instead, I smiled, because now I knew Veronica wasn't just cruel, she was strategic, and I had to be. 2 other girls got grounded for sneaking out to parties. I got grounded for wanting a party at all. After that cursed 16th birthday, it was like someone had pressed mute on my life. Veronica didn't just pretend the incident never happened, she rewrote it. When anyone asked, she'd chuckle sweetly. Oh, she just wasn't feeling well that day. Teenagers, you know. And my dad? He believed her. Because believing me would mean admitting he'd let someone like her into our home, into my life. She turned isolation into routine. My school lunches began to accidentally go missing. My favorite hoodie disappeared from the laundry. She forgot to give me messages from friends who called the landline. Bit by bit, she erased the things that grounded me, the things that reminded me of who I used to be. Every time I looked in the mirror, I saw less of the girl I was. There was one day I'll never forget. I'd gotten a perfect grade on a biology exam, the kind of thing I'd usually call my mom about, my real mom. I stood in the hallway, staring at the landline, debating whether to pick it up. That's when Veronica came up behind me and said, "There's no need to look backwards. You're mine now." It was said so softly, so gently, like a lullaby, but it chilled me more than any scream could have. That she'd started putting baby clothes around the house, little pink socks and framed ultrasound photos. And with every new item, I felt like I was being pushed further out of the frame. She called it a nesting. I called it replacement. One night, I heard her on the phone with one of her friends, sipping wine. "She's just dead weight at this point. We'll find a way to get her out. Dennis will come around. He's distracted. He always is." That's when it hit me. This wasn't neglect, this was strategy. She was playing a long game. And I was the only piece she wanted off the board, but I wasn't as invisible as she thought. I started keeping a journal. Then voice memos. Photos of bruises she said were accidents. Snippets of phone calls. Conversations where she'd mutter about reforming me, about sending me where I couldn't embarrass the family anymore. I became quiet, watchful, calculated, because I realized something important. If Veronica was building her perfect little family fantasy, then I needed to be the plot twist she never saw coming. She thought I was just a scared little girl. But scared girls grow sharp teeth. For weeks, I played the part Veronica had written for me, quiet, obedient, invisible. The AT school, I stopped talking in class. Teachers marked it down as teen mood swings. At home, I cleaned up after her, nodded when she spoke, even helped fold the baby clothes she'd started hoarding in my old dresser. She loved the performance. She thought she was winning, but every quiet moment was another file saved, another recording uploaded to my hidden drive. I turned my bedroom into a command center. Beneath the loose floorboard where I used to hide candy bars, I now hid a flash drive that held her real voice, mocking, threatening, manipulating. I even installed a cheap motion detecting app on my tablet that picked up whenever she entered my room. the footage it captured? Enough to make any therapist flinch. One night, I caught her standing over me while I pretended to sleep. She didn't say a word. Just watched me. Breathing slow and heavy. As if calculating. After that, I kept a screwdriver under my pillow. Just in case. Dad was still clueless. He worked late, traveled on weekends, and when he was home, Veronica played the doting wife to perfection. She'd serve him homemade pie, rub his shoulders, then casually bring up how distant I'd been lately, how worried she was about my emotional instability. She needs structure, she'd say, eyes wide with faux concern. Someplace focused on girls like her. With rules. With professionals. Dad would sigh, tired and distracted. If you really think that's best, and just like that. I knew she was close. Boarding school wasn't a threat anymore. It was a plan. That night, I waited until everyone was asleep. I crept into the hallway and opened the envelope she kept tucked into her nightstand. There it was, my transfer paperwork. Already signed. A one-way ticket to St. Ainsley Academy for Young Ladies, in rural Montana. Start date, 2 weeks from now. I didn't cry. Not anymore. Instead, I took photos of every page. The next morning, I acted excited. Told her I wanted to help decorate the nursery. She beamed. Finally, she thought, I was broken in, but while she was out shopping, I installed a backup security camera, tiny, hidden in a decorative owl on my shelf. I wanted every second of her next move recorded. Then came the final piece, a voicemail. I borrowed her phone when she was showering and called her sister, letting it record her usual venomous monologue about getting rid of the dead weight before the baby comes. I left the phone recording under a pile of laundry in her room, and she didn't disappoint. The girl's a shadow, she snapped to her sister. I'll make sure Dennis signs the final papers this week. She'll be on a plane before she even realizes what happened. My fingers didn't shake this time. I'd heard enough that it was time to go from documenting to detonating. I wasn't just fighting for my place in the family. I was fighting to be seen and heard, to be believed. With the thick folder of evidence clutched in my hands, I knew this was the moment that could change everything or break it forever. I couldn't just throw accusations around. I had to be methodical. This was my chance to make my father see what had been hidden in plain sight for years. I spent hours preparing, organizing every piece meticulously. The recordings of Vera's cold, calculating voicemails. The photos of my baby, pictures ripped up like they were worthless. The documents for boarding schools and new nurseries. Each one told a story my dad needed to hear from me, not from someone else. The next Sunday afternoon, when the house was quiet and Dad was home, I called him to the kitchen table. My heart was pounding. Dad, I need you to look at this, I said, voice trembling but steady. I spread the files in front of him, watching as confusion flickered across his face. He flipped through the pages slowly. His eyes darted between the recordings, the photos, the notes. He leaned back, stunned. Is this true? He asked, voice barely above a whisper. I nodded. I tried to tell you, but I didn't have proof. I wanted to protect you from the pain, but you deserve the truth. At first, he wanted to deny it. Veronica wouldn't do that. She loves you, he insisted. But I gently pressed play on the voicemail where Vera plotted to send me away, where she mocked me behind my back. The weight of her words filled the room. Dad's face crumpled. The realization hit him hard. All those years, he'd been blinded by the perfect image Veronica had painted. I'm so sorry, Dyla, he said, tears in his eyes. I never wanted you to feel invisible. That evening, the confrontation came. Dad faced Vera, armed with the evidence. Her polished facade cracked under the weight of the truth. She lashed out, throwing accusations, spinning lies, but Dad no longer wavered. Within a week, she had packed her bags. The divorce was swift. And for the first time, our home felt like a place of safety rather than secrecy. Dad and I started to rebuild our relationship, slowly, with honesty and healing. He apologized for missing the signs, and I forgave him for his blindness. That day was a turning point, not just for our family, but for me. For the first time in years, I felt seen, heard, and truly loved. After the chaos of the wedding and Vera's exit, the house finally felt like a place where I could breathe freely for the first time in years. The weight that had been pressing on my chest, the constant fear, the silent threats, the feeling of invisibility, slowly began to lift. Dad and I started spending genuine time together, not just the rushed dinners or polite conversations we used to have, but long talks. Late into the night, he asked questions I'd never been allowed to answer, and for the first time, I felt heard. I realized how much I had been missing, not just as a daughter, but as a person. The process of healing wasn't quick or easy. There were days when memories of Vera's manipulation would flood back, and I'd find myself questioning if I was really free. But I refused to let those shadows define me anymore. I decided to take control of my story, my choices, and my future. I reconnected with Zoe, my steadfast friend who had stood by me even when I was locked away on my 16th birthday. We spent hours reminiscing, laughing at the absurdity of it all, and planning new memories that no one could take away. Our friendship became a foundation I could lean on. Our school was no longer a battlefield but a sanctuary. I joined clubs I had only dreamed of, from photography to debate, discovering talents and passions I never knew I had. I found joy in small victories, acing a test, winning a friendly argument, making new friends who cared about the real me, not the image Vera had tried to erase. Therapy became a crucial part of my recovery. It was terrifying at first to open up about the years of control, the fear, the loneliness. But with every session, I peeled away layers of pain and self-doubt. I learned to set boundaries, to trust my own voice, and most importantly, to love myself. Each step forward was a declaration: I am not a victim. I am a survivor, and I am more than enough. Birthdays, once a source of dread, turned into celebrations of my resilience. I threw small parties with friends who truly cared, surrounded by laughter and light, a stark contrast to the lonely, locked room I had known before. Every candle I blew out was a wish for continued strength and freedom. The locked door, the discarded gifts, the whispered threats, they are now distant memories. In their place stand open windows and doors, symbols of the life I fought to reclaim. I am finally living on my own terms. By the time I turned 18, I was no longer the scared, silenced girl locked away on her birthday. I moved out the very day I was legally able to, leaving behind the house filled with fake smiles, locked doors, and cold dinners. With only a small suitcase and a heart full of hope, I stepped into a life that I could finally call my own. That first night in my new apartment, I threw a small, intimate party, just me, Zoe, and a few close friends who had stood by me through it all. There were no forced smiles or fake celebrations, just genuine laughter, warm hugs, and the freedom to be myself without fear. Every birthday since then has become a true celebration. Not just of the passing years, but of my resilience, my growth, and my unbreakable spirit. I learned to cherish those moments as milestones marking my journey from darkness into light. I no longer look back on that locked door, the silenced cries, or the stolen celebrations with bitterness. Instead, I hold gratitude for the lessons they taught me, the true meaning of love, respect, and self-worth. They showed me how to recognize the difference between people who say they love you and those who prove it every single day. No matter what, I pushed myself through college, majoring in psychology to better understand the complexities of human behavior and to help others trapped in toxic situations like mine. Today, I work with young people struggling with controlling families and toxic relationships, reminding them that they are not alone and that freedom is possible. Every story I hear echoes my own experience, and every victory feels like a small victory for the scared girl I once was. So, to everyone who has ever been held back, locked away, or made to feel invisible, your day will come. Your freedom will come. And when it does, remember to make a wish not just for happiness, but for a life lived fully and fiercely on your own terms. Because no one deserves to have their light dimmed, especially not on their birthday.